Mike Bearlack here to sing Motown for you before I lose all the daylight. She's sweet, delicious, and she's marvelous, so marvelous. Sweeter than candy, sweeter than cherry pie. So today's musical selection was one of the greatest musical groups of all time. A musical group so unique that it is impossible to duplicate them. I'm talking, of course, about the California Raisins. Before them, I had no idea dried fruit could sing, period, let alone sing Motown. They covered many known hits, including You Can't Hurry Love, which Phil Collins, one of the most well-known singing voices of our times, did a cover of it too, in the same decade. But if you're laughing at this point, the joke's on you, because although I would be inclined to agree that someone whom thinks dried fruit singing Motown probably should be fitted for a straitjacket. With the right marketing and finances, if they had some wisdom in these fields, or knew someone who did and hired that person, they're probably sitting pretty today. Sitting pretty. On the other hand, it was the 1980s. A lot of darker elements of human nature were at work too. Sadly, maybe this someone was under the influence of a, shall we say, outside additive. You got to be careful. You got to be creative about how you talk about certain things on this platform, folks. But, maybe this someone was under the influence of a certain outside additive. And now we're in Gaga land. When they had the idea that would become the California Raisins. And now they feel a certain obligation to the makers of this outside additive. If my own life had went differently, I may have been susceptible to such a thing. But I have never been to Gaga land. Gaga land, not to be confused with La La Land. La La Land is a place I've been to many, many times. Sometimes I have to go there briefly just to get through, just to take a break from the day. But you might ask, Gaga Land, La La Land, what's the difference, Mike? Well, there is a fundamental difference between the two. If you'll indulge me, I'll explain. A trip to Gaga Land requires the assistance of an outside source, or additive, like I mentioned. A trip to La La Land is all natural. And from my perspective, more people find it easier to get to Gaga Land than La La Land. Gaga Land is more for externally motivated people. La La Land is for more internally motivated people. One summer I took a psychology course in college, as the government gave me the money already to take one course, so I didn't want to waste the government's money. So I took intro to psychology. La La Land people are not as fearful of seizing control of their own lives. Again, from my experience, Gaga Land people would rather give control to another, which might help explain the successful power grabbing that the Democratic Party has done through fear-mongering over the last 3 decades. It makes sense that the Democratic Party would want it to be easier to get to Gaga Land than to La La Land. And it would explain the Democratic Party marriage to leftist ideology and the desire to eradicate God out of all things governmental. Take away God, take away hope. Take away hope, acquiring power and control is easier. Grimork from Neverending Story comes to mind. Alright, this video's becoming a little too deep, so back to La La Land to recoup. In other words, back to the California Raisins. You know, a lot of these songs obviously are covers of originals. That doesn't mean that the, you know, originals are better than them or they're better than the originals. But when you've heard these songs a million times in your life, sometimes it's refreshing to hear a different artistic take on it. Lean on Me, their cover of it is actually very much like Club Nueve, which I thought was kind of cool when I was a kid because I couldn't afford to buy Club Nueve's album of it. They do a cover of James Brown, I Feel Good. Like I said, it's refreshing to hear. I just listened to the soundtrack to My Girl, which has the original version of My Girl. They got a cover of that. I Never Can Say Goodbye, the Jackson 5. They found a singer that sounds pretty damn close to Michael Jackson. But Dancing in the Street, about the same time that the California Raisins came out, David Bowie and Mick Jagger did a cover of that. Moni Moni, about the same time, Billy Idol did a cover of it. See, kids, they don't pick these tracks, you know, blindly. I'm sure there was a board meeting about it. Although Motown, they're known primarily for Motown, and Heard It Through the Grapevine was the signature California Raisin song. Dock of the Bay cover is interesting, but it doesn't have the signature whistling part that's in the original. Okay, to recap my point on Gaga Land versus La La Land. Getting to Gaga Land, one must rely on outside additives or man-made sources. Getting to La La Land, one must have a natural, God-given ability to be Cocoa for Cocoa Puffs. Alright, after a 12-hour shift, I gotta go home and relax. Mike Perlak, thank you for your time.